Well, here we are. It is Friday, February 3rd, 2023, and this is our weekly video. We take a look back every Friday at what's been going on in the Asian art market, auctions on eBay, auctions on live auctioneers, what's happening over at Christie's, Sotheby's, and Bonhams, and other news. Wherever there is, we try to keep track of it for you and bring it here on Fridays. This week was a fairly quiet week on the overall auction market. Not a lot going on, sort of in the January. There's a lot of stuff has appeared on the global pages. Many of you that use it have seen how much stuff is poured in there. There's a lot of material coming up in the next 2 months. Some of it's very good. Some good lots closed this past week. And we're going to go through some of it, all righty? One of the things I wanted to mention from the beginning here is that on the newsletter page here, which you get to, this is the home page. I don't know if this is for those of you who aren't that familiar with the site. There's a newsletter page right here, and you can click that, and it brings you over to what we find and suggest you might be interested in on eBay each week, because every week there's something over there. But one of the things we did add this week, for those of you that like to search around on eBay, and it'd be a good place, actually, it's a good place to start if you're going to be going on eBay to do some digging. This is a way you can sort of get a leg up so you don't have to do a lot of filtering. We set up 3 boxes here. These are little quick searches, and these seek out things that have bids, that have interest, and may be good. But you should have a fair bit of proficiency in spotting copies and fakes and so forth, because this is an unfiltered search. These are all unfiltered. There's some good things here, and you're going to see, and there's some really bad things will appear as well. Things that people are bidding on, thinking that they're authentic when they're not, is always a problem. But there are some very nice items on here, and it's one of the places we find things that we put on the newsletter page each week. And there are 3 sections: the US page, the UK side, and then the EU. Now, the UK and the USA have the most items. Between them, there's about 800 or 900 items at any time, and about 10% of them are okay, and the other 90% you want to be careful of. I'll just give you a little warning on that, but it's sort of an interesting way to start out if you're going to be looking around, because it takes you right to the auction items if that's what you're mostly interested in. The other thing I wanted to mention was that this week, many of you have seen it, of course, was we did another conversation with David Harper over in the UK. He's that BBC personality. He's an antique dealer. He's been in the business a long time. He has very diverse interests. He's a really interesting guy to talk to. Big fan of history. We had a great conversation. It's a 54-minute sit down between us, and I think it was very relaxing. It was nice to talk with him again. And I like the idea of doing these interviews. And I was going to say to all of you, if you have a suggestion for someone that would make a good person to interview, a person who's maybe a longtime collector, who has an interesting collection, or a dealer, or an auctioneer or something, suggest his name to me. Put it in the comment or email me and let me know what you think. And if it seems like a good fit, we'll reach out to the person and see if they'd be interested in talking for a half an hour about what they do and how they do it. This shop talk is always interesting in the antique business, if you're a collector, or if you're a dealer, or if you're an auctioneer, because you get to see what other people in the trade are doing, and it's an interesting look. All right, now what happened over on eBay this week? Well, a number of things sold, not a huge amount. We had a lot of stuff on there, but a lot of the items haven't closed yet. And we've updated the newsletter page already, and we're going to get to it in a minute. We'll go over some of the items that are going to be on there this week. But first, I want to go through some results. One of the pieces that sold was this. It was very nicely enameled, good, strong colors. This rose medallion export tray. These turn up periodically. Often they had little cups and saucers that go on them. It's about 1 foot in diameter. This was a nice one, though. The colors were good. The gilding was in good shape. And somebody picked it up for $227, which isn't bad. It's not bad. That's not a bad price at all for that. And then over to this. This was an interesting pair of dishes. Very good quality. They've got old Samuel Marchant stickers on them, and these were sold probably back, maybe by Marchants back in the 60s. They still handle some export, and the export that they handle now is very fine. I like this quality, but they're not known for being specifically export dealers. They're really known for selling Chinese market taste things, though they do have good export wares. If you're ever in London, stop in to visit them. You'll see some pretty dazzling pieces. But there's this pair of plates. These are beautifully done. Very fine detail. This honeycomb pattern here in the cavetto, nicely done birds and so forth. Beautiful plates. Somebody picked up the pair for $463, which I think was a great buy. That was a really good buy for some really fine Chinese late 18th century export platters with a little bit of provenance to Marchant, and you got a pair. Which I think is a really great way to get them. These were nice, and I forget how big they were. I think there's a ruler in one of the pictures. I think they're about 11. They were about 10 or 12 inches in diameter each. And as I said, they went for $463. All right, and then the dish. This dish had a small hairline in it, but it was a great thing to buy if you're interested in kung chi wares, and your wallet isn't going to let you open it up and spend thousands of dollars. This was a perfectly legitimate example. It had a hairline in it. I think that's about it. Very nice looking plate around 10 inches in diameter, beautifully done. And somebody picked it up for $122, which I think is a good buy. This was nicely decorated with these lobed sections around. There you go. And this was sold by a seller. This was all Ceramics and Collectibles. The Shangri-La guys had this. This was nice. All right, and then over to this. This was another piece that came from them. And I had a couple of inquiries this week, people looking at similarly decorated plates, and I recommended this one as well on the inquiry side, on the identification assistant service. They were looking at things that were coming up in auction, and a number of people, I said, well, if you like that, you might really like this. And it brought what I thought. It brought a little more than I thought, maybe by about $50. But this was a nice example. Kengshi decoration with beautiful orange flowers on it, in good shape, $397. So that was a very reasonable price, I think. Very reasonable. And they also sold this, a Kendi, Wan Li Kendi. This was a good one. It had the flying horse on it. It's a common pattern on Wan Li Kendis, but this was a nice one. It was clean. It didn't seem to have any real damage. It had a microscopic nick out of the spout, and that was about it. And somebody picked it up for $1,259, which is a few $100s under what they often bring. Sometimes these typically bring, when we've talked about them in the past, they seem to bring more in the $1,400 to $1,800 range. And this one went for $1,259. Pretty close, and the shipping was reasonable. It's $53 from the Netherlands to here. That's perfectly reasonable in today's world. Shipping is going up, and unfortunately, I just heard that eBay is raising their fees again in the next month or so. So, if you're an eBay seller, you might want to look into that, see how that might impact you. They keep squeezing and squeezing and squeezing because they're not doing a very good job of getting the site to grow. So they just keep going back to their users and trying to tap them for a few extra dollars every month. And then onto this 18th century export teapot. Nice example. Good looking. The handle looks like it's in pretty good shape. It had a tiny hairline at the bottom, but I don't think it ever broke off because the upper section is intact. I think it developed maybe a crack for some reason, which is pretty common. Spout's got a tiny nick out of it, but overall it was nicely decorated. Good looking pot. And for the teapot collector, because there are people who collect these things. And this one went for $455, which is right about where it should be. Right about where it should be. And this was Shangri-La guys, the Ceramics and Collectibles, and they dated it to the Kangxi period. And then over to this. This was one of my favorite little bowls that was in all the sales last week. It's a Ghee type bowl, probably on early Ming. Nicely done. That gray porcelain or pottery body that they used on these had a small nick out of the rim, but it was nicely potted. It had a nice little shape to it. And if you're one of those people that love these early cracklewares, and you don't want to spend $20 or $30 or $40,000 on one, this is a great type to pursue because I think they're undervalued for what they are, and has a nice color and well crackled and so forth. And somebody picked this up for $799, which is about right. This was some really good stuff. Was the seller of this over in the UK. They get nice things. I think they're in the UK, aren't they? Yeah, yeah. And then this was a very nice sell-it-on plate. They dated it as Ming, and as I said last week, it isn't Ming. This is actually an 18th century dish. It's a perfectly good dish. The relief decoration on it, the incise decoration in it is good, and it's got that black dressing on the back that you see often in these. It had an old hairline in the body there. It didn't seem to come through to the front, so that might just be in the glaze on the back. But a nice looking plate. Looks 18th century to me. There's the bottom of it. And somebody picked it up after 24 bids for $350. It wasn't an enormous plate. It measured 28 centimeters in diameter, or about that comes out to about 10 inches or so in width. But a nice size, good size to display. Would look good on a wall or on a plate stand. And then this, the Yixing teapot. This is one of these unusual types of teapots. These have been around for years, and for many, many years, people didn't realize how rare some of these are, because it's a pewter teapot with a Yixing liner, and then they put jade handles on them and inscribe it. And this is a nice one. And in the past, they brought more money. Sometimes they bring $5,000, $6,000, $7,000. And then a while ago, a year or so ago, they were down. These were selling for around $1,800 to $2,500. Now the price seems to be coming back a little bit. It was this time around. One of these sold for $3,260. They did these in a wide variety of shapes. They did them in compressed forms. They did them in these sort of tall elliptical forms like this one. All kinds of shapes were made with these pewter bodies. And you always want to check inside to make sure that the Yixing is not cracked. You always want to inspect it carefully, get a light, get that. If you're at an auction, this is why you want to carry a little pocket light with you on your keychain, a little LED light, so you can stick it down inside of things in this, like for example, and you can check to see if it has any cracks or damage. If it has a crack in the Yixing liner, it has an enormous impact on the value. And often the Yixing liner is signed on the inside at the bottom of the pot. Little pro tip there. So always check to see if it has a signature stamped into it. Usually it's a square seal of some kind. And this was a nice one, and it did very well. But it was a good example. It looked like a good example to me. And then over here to this, the little brush pot. I don't think it was Juanwali. I think it was some other type of brush pot, but it was a nice old one. It looks like it's probably an early 19th century. It's the one with the holes in the bottom, how they made them like this. They put a plug in it sometimes. But this one looks like it's been around a little bit. I think it needs a good oiling. These pots do great with a little bit of lemon oil or a little bit of wax gently applied to them. You can use Howard's wax and feed is very, very good on this kind of thing. That product is actually excellent on almost all Asian woods. It doesn't hurt them, and puts nice color into them. This sold for just a hair under $1,000, so $1 under. It sold for $998.99. But a nice pot, good-looking brush pot. And that was sort of, the week, sort of the highlights of the week of things that sold. There are a lot of new things on there that we've added this week. We've already updated the page. There they all go. There's a lot on here. There's about 150 lots this week, 160 maybe. Lots of export wares, some good silver. As you can see, the pages haven't finished quite loading yet. We just updated it. There we go. And there's that Buddha. We'll go through a couple of lots, but there's some good things. Do check it out. And as I say each week, if you use the newsletter page, hit the sign up form. Put your email address in, and you'll get a notification in email because the page typically updates sometime, and the video comes out sometime between 5 and 6 o'clock in the evening, maybe 6:30. And we send out the emails to let you know that the video is done and the newsletter page is updated within 5 minutes of us finishing it. So it's a good way to stay up to date and get to it first, because you want to do that. And you can get in there and leave some bids, get going on buying. All right, now what else is closing out this week? That very nice Fitzhugh Tureen closes on Sunday. We talked about it last week. I'm just reminding everybody, this is a nice example. This is a really, really fine example done in the Fitzhugh pattern. Nice big finial on there. I like this plot, and if you get one of these, then go out and try to find the platter that goes with it. But it's a good one. It's probably going to double or so before it's done, but or go up to $700 to $900, somewhere in that range, I suspect. But it's a nice terrain. If you like export terrains, check it out. And then this is a couple of nifty watercolors in here on paper. These are late 19th century, I think, of craftsmen. And you see the same type of work on pith paper. Now, they say this is on regular paper, and it does appear to be. It appears to be some sort of a Chinese paper, not pith. And I don't think it's Watman paper. I don't think it's the imported stuff. I think this is a local paper, judging by the color and so forth. And this one has a person doing some steel work or something like this. Look, he's a blacksmith working on a fitting here and some hinges, and he's got his cooling pail there and so forth. It's up to just $30. It's got 16 hours left. These close tomorrow. There's this one, and there is, let the page load. There we go. This is the other one, the butcher, the portable butcher. And there he is. He's got his meat hanging on the hooks and some goat heads and so forth, getting ready for his day. Absolutely charming. This is the kind of stuff I love. Domestic life in China. And this is also just up to $30. And again, this closes tomorrow. So do check that out. That's interesting. These are interesting pictures. And framed up, they can be very charming. They really can. And this is that Buddha that's going to close. This closes on Sunday. It's been up for 10 days. Was up for last weekend. These generally sell for $1,400 to $1,800. Sometimes they bring $2,000. This is one. It's stamped on the bottom by the maker. It's one of the well-known Jingdezhen Buddha makers. There are certain factories over there that are just known for making these, and they are very collectible in China. Folks in China just love these. We had a collection of them a number of years ago. I think we had probably 15 of them, 15 or 20 of them, and they all sold. They all sold well. They were all slightly different. This one has the brick pattern on it, as we called it, and usually it's on the back as well and on the side. There it is. Very nicely done, and should bring, like I said, $1,400 to $1,800. There's still room in it yet, and it closes on Sunday. It could go over that, but I think it'll land somewhere within that, close to that range. And also is this a good size pair of rose mandarin vases made around 1840 to 1850. They're 42 centimeters tall, which means they're around 15 inches in height. They look like they're in very nice condition. They have one bid. They're at $9. The seller here had a pretty high opening bid, I guess. He started the bidding at basically $799. It's got one bid so far, but there's still room in them to go. These vases typically sell in pairs like this at auction for between $1,300, $1,400, and $1,600, $1,800, somewhere in there. And I expect they will get there if people catch it. The problem with putting high estimates on them, though, is that sometimes in high opening bid prices, is that eBay won't start to promote the listing really very much with the Cassini program. Until it gets action, until it gets bids, and until it gets on a lot of watch lists. And so I always tell people, start as low as you can, because you want eBay their algorithm to pick up on your piece right away that it's getting activity, because then they check their price indexes, they see what the prices of this item what it usually brings in this based on the description. And if eBay's computers say, oh, we can make money with this thing, they will promote it in search. And that's what you want to do. You want to get promoted in eBay's search algorithm. If you want to know more about Cassini, we did a video on it a couple of years ago explaining in some great detail how it works. And if you use all of the features available on eBay to get the maximum visibility that you can, there are certain areas that when people are filling out the forms to do their listings on eBay, they don't bother even checking them off. And I don't know why, but you have to do it. Otherwise, you're going to lose money. You're going to lose money. Absolutely going to lose money. Because eBay, you become invisible to the site, and you end up with too many people finding you by accident more than by search. So you want people to find you as searchable as possible. All right, and then over to this. This is a very nice export, 18th century export plate. For some reason, this seller didn't seem to have a light to put in front of the object. This is very dark pictures. If you're doing pictures to put on eBay, you don't want to have pictures that are this dark. It doesn't do you any good. Check the visibility before you put the item up. He got plenty of light on it to do the crack, though. There's a hairline in this, but this is a very nice old plate, and it's a fairly rare type with these European scenes. It should bring $800 to $1,200, but we'll see. But the next plate from the same seller is even rarer, and we'll get over here to this. This is it. And it is a twin to the one that just sold in the Cohen & Cohen sale. It's an autumn plate with troubadours. And there it is. And this is the one that just sold it in the Cohen & Cohen sale. They're major Chinese export dealers in England. I believe he's retiring. And he sold some of his inventory at Bonham's. And he had this. This is a very rare type. And this is the same plate. Pretty much. I don't see any real difference. There it is. And this is the one that's on at eBay right now, and that's the one that just sold at Bonham's. As you can see, they used a lot better lighting at Bonham's than the seller did on eBay. But the one that sold at Bonham's sold for $3,500. There it is. It sold, well, it was $2,800 plus the buyer's premium, which brought it up to about $3,600 all in. And this one is just up to let's see, it closes in 8 days. It's just recently listed. It's up to $244 now. It should get up there. It has a hairline in it. It's not as perfect perhaps as the one that was at Bonham's from the Cohen & Cohen collection, but still very, very rare, unusual export plates. You don't see many 8-9-inch export plates from the 18th century bringing $3,000 or $4,000. There aren't that many of them. This is one of them. With the hairline, it should still bring $1,500 to $2,500 because it is a rare bird, and there's no buyer's premium, of course. So that could be a great thing for a serious export ware collector. So do check it out. It's already on the newsletter page. Bookmark it. Leave a bid. Chase it down. All right, now what else is going on? Here, these are some of the results, and all those are coming up, and there's a lot more. I think, as I said, those are just a few of the things that are going to be on the newsletter page this week. There are a lot more. Like I said, there's 150, 170 items on there. And this is stuff from the global pages, things that sold this week. This is a very unusual plate, the Telgarn slot, blue and white porcelain plate with the building in it inscribed. There was one just like it that sold at Christie's not long ago, and they mention it in the listing, and it brought $3,000 or $4,000. So that'll give you some idea what this plate could be worth. It's a very, very, very nice example. And this one sold for a little under. It went for $2,400. So somebody got a good buy on it. The last one brought over $3,000 for $3,500, I think, and this one is nearly identical. And it was estimated at just $500 to $1,000. I had a couple of people ask about it, and I said expect it to bring at least double what the high estimate is, because this is and many of you are going to look at it and say, boy, it doesn't even look Chinese. The way they did this building in the middle, a very European looking decoration as far as the style of the painting. Not the typical. It doesn't appear to be typically Chinese, and the English script at the bottom is actually quite good. So whoever did it knew what they were doing. Whoever painted this, and this just sold a few days ago. All right, now What else? This sold just the day before yesterday over at Bonham's. And this was in their home decor section. We had put this on there, home and decor. It is another place where you can buy from big auction houses. They often put Chinese, very good Chinese objects in other sales that come from collections. And this one went into the home decor section. It's a Kangxi period blue and white dish with a heraldic crest on it, horses. But a really pretty plate. Nicely done. Very nicely done. Purely export ware. They didn't include any extra photos. It went for $2,200. All right, and that was on the global member pages. And the other thing that was on there was, let this load up. There we go. Was that Kangxi teapot with an unusually thin bridge handle on the top. This handle that goes up. They're usually a little heavier duty than this. This one is very delicate, and it's a miracle that it's still attached. But it is, and it's a nice Kangxi pot, rather unusual design, and it ended up doing just fine at the end. It brought $1,744 plus the premium, so you're up around 20. Let's see, this was at the Goldfield auction. What was their premium? 30% buyer's premium, so it ended up at around $2,500 for the teapot, but an unusual one, an unusual teapot. And then over to this, get it to load. There we go. This Famille Rose Lotus dish. This was about a foot in diameter. It was a good sized plate. Diameter 300 millimeters. That's 30 centimeters. That's a foot. All right, just running the math through in my head. Nicely done. Very, very pretty plate. Estimated at just $500 to $1,000, which was about right. And it sold for the high end of it. It sold for $1,000, but very, very pretty. I don't see any chips off the tips of the lotus leaves. And the enameling all looked like it was in a very nice condition. Not a lot of chipping or any damage to it. You always want to look also across these at an angle, let the light rake across it and check it for scratches and damage if you're in a dark auction hall. But this one looked pretty good. And there's the back of it. Very clean, nice and shiny. Obviously came out of a decent collection. And it did fine. It brought exactly what it was worth, within $100. And then this was a mug that I talked about on the global member page video a few weeks ago when this thing was first posted. A very unusual bell form 18th century jug with a export with lohans with immortals on it. You don't see these very often. Pattern to see the such a Chinese taste thing on a piece of export ware. Very unusual mug, nicely done all the way down. It looked like it was in pretty good shape, any damage on it. And it ended up selling for $1,744 plus, of course, the premium again. So around $2,500 when it was all said and done. But a rare bird. If you collect Chinese export wares, it's the kind of thing you want to keep your eye out for. These very unusually decorated examples, because they don't turn up very often. And when they do, obviously they get a lot of attention, because typically these 5-6 inch Chinese export mugs from the 18th century sell for anywhere from a couple of $100, $300, up to maybe $600 or $700 for a very good example. This one obviously brought more than that. It brought 4 or 5 times that of the high price that they normally bring. And these pair of Dutch coat of arms, grisaille decorated 18th century plates. These were very, very nice. And these were also at that Goldfield auction in Luxembourg. They had a pretty good sale going. And this is a nice one. It looks like a wedding between two people in this very developed, very finely detailed architectural setup here with the balusters and the arches and all the doodads and the murals painted on the ceilings, and just fabulous. And you have the 2 family crests up here, if you didn't notice it, one for the bride, one for the groom. And there they are. So it certainly looks like a wedding plate to me. Let's see here. Sold for $3,378 plus. So again, you're up around $4,500 for the 2 dishes. But very nice, very rare, and they were in good shape, which is important. And then this, the 18th century export punch bowl. This was a nice one. I think the price was very strong. Somebody must have really loved it. It wasn't especially big. It was 34 centimeters, or about 14 inches in diameter. It was estimated at 2,000 to 4,000 euros, which I thought was about right. We've seen these very similar bowls like this sell for 1,600 to 3,000, depending on the size and condition. This one was in good shape. The gilding was all intact, and overall it looked pretty good. We had a little bit of wear to the edge, enamels on the edges, but other than that, it looked pretty good. Nice colors, good yellows, but some fritting on the rim, as you can see, and a little bit unevenness in the rim too, just from how it was potted. It sold for $6,500 plus premium. That's a strong price for a piece of export ware. Again, if we may be seeing, some life in the old export market yet. I've been talking about it for a few weeks, and it certainly seems to be happening. This looks like a price you would have seen on export ware in the 1990s when the stuff was really hot. So this piece ended up going for $75, about $8,400, somewhere around there, all done for a 14-inch export punch bowl. Not bad. And then this, the really rare iron and silver inlaid Joseon Dynasty Korean incense burner. This was wonderful. I talked about this a few times on the global videos because I thought it was a very nice thing. And these silver inlaid Korean pieces often get sold as Japanese. They're often misidentified as Chinese and so forth. These are Korean. And this one was these aren't enormous. This was only about 8 inches tall, from 7 5/8 inches tall. Not very, very big, but very finely worked. And they did show plenty of photographs of it. It's well lit. The silver looked like it was in good condition. You don't see any bends or breaks in the feet, so it hasn't been dropped. The handles are still attached, and the heron on top is still there, and I don't see any signs that it's been knocked off and reattached. So it's a rare bird, literally. And I thought it would bring 15 or so thousand. It went double that. It brought $30,000 plus premium. Of 25%, and this was Case Antiques had this down in Knoxville. They had a good sale. Case gets interesting things. They get some. I think they get into some old money households down there because every sale they seem to have something quite good. So you want to keep your eye on Case. And this was one of the pieces. So by the time you're done with the buyer's premium, this ended up close to $40,000. But a very rare and unusual thing. And then the last thing we're going to talk about, one of the last things, is this. I had mentioned this a few weeks ago when it first went up. This thing has been on Live Auctioneers for, I don't know, maybe 2 months, month and a half as it led up to the auction. But this was a very big piece of Meiji period metalwork, and very finely worked. I absolutely loved this thing. I thought that the technical side of this, the way it was done, was outstanding. I really did. And it's 24 inches in diameter. This is not a small bronze. This is a big bronze, 2 feet wide. And I hope one of you bought it because I think you got a great buy. The estimate was ridiculously low. It was $400 to $500, and it ended up selling for $2,100 plus premium. So what's the premium here? 25%. So about $2,600 for this bronze, and I think that's perfectly fine. This is a really nice piece of bronze work. Beautiful quality, no damage to it, and it's been taken care of, and it hasn't been polished every week by the cleaning lady, so it's got a bit of a nice warm surface to it. Really, really like this a lot. I love this thing. I should have bought it, but at any rate, you can't buy everything. But this was a corker. If this had sold for $6,000 or $7,000, I wouldn't have been at all surprised. I thought it was so nice. I really, really did, and I hope one of you got your hands on it. All right, and that's about it for the week. Not a lot of stuff sold. Not a lot of stuff has closed out on Live Auctioneers or Invaluable this week to talk about. There are some things closing this week. If you're use the global member pages, we put up the weekly video over there on Wednesday. Talked about some things that are coming up, and the pages are pretty full. So have at it over the weekend. And as I said at the beginning here, the newsletter page is already updated. Actually, I've got to finish doing a few things on it before we release it. and release the video. But overall, it looks pretty good for the week. Some nice drawings, silver, porcelain, some Japanese material, and so forth. So do check it out. All right. Have a great rest of your week. And as I said at the very beginning, just a reminder, let me know what you think about doing little interviews, talking to people. And if you have somebody in mind, let me know, or have them get in touch with me or something. All right, and that's about it. If you haven't subscribed yet here on YouTube, please do. We do these videos. We do always put up a couple of videos every week, it seems. Sometimes 3 if there's a lot of auctions going on. And we try to follow and see what's going on in the world. Got a couple of videos we're working on. We're going to be doing a video on the Rob Michaels sales. There's some good news there and there's some bad news there. So we're going to get into that. It's going to be sort of a touchy video to do, I think, but we're going to do it. All right. Have a great weekend, and thanks so much for watching. All right. Bye-bye.